Thank you very much, Dipak and Pierre, for introducing yourself. An impressive career in healthcare and R&D. So there are a couple of questions that I would like perhaps to ask you and ask for your help here. The first one is about when we're talking big data, and everybody today is talking big data. Just would like to understand when the big data term started to be used, and when did the big data start being really something that was considered in the life science industry, in healthcare, and more especially also on your side in R&D?
Yeah, maybe this is a good one for you to start.
Well, let me start. So, for us in the life science world, on the research side, the big data project was really the human genome. But it doesn't mean that big data started with the human genome, because a lot of people were using big data in climate change, in astrophysics, in a lot of other domains where massive amounts of data were being used, some quite complex. But the Human Genome Project really, from the research perspective, gave the visibility of a big data project that really revolutionized a lot of what was happening in laboratories across the world, and drove technology development, both in the actual sequencing of DNA, which has become very, very important and now very, very efficient and fast and cheap, but also on the IT side in terms of the analytical tools that are now used to analyze genomic data and other omic data, proteins and metabolites and all the rest of it, which and I think that's the kind of beginning of it all from that perspective, and I think Dipak will have another perspective.
Thank you. So, thinking about the uses of big data in healthcare, I guess really one can go back to the foundations of epidemiology, where universities often and other institutes have collected large data sets. Countries have built up disease registers and operative registers of many kinds, which have often multi-million patient databases in them. So using large volumes of data for research, for knowledge discovery, for tracking safety issues is not new. Also, I think pharma industry in routinely collected health data is not new. I remember as a GP in the late 1980s, the pharma industry was interested in what data general practitioners might be able to collect. And they helped to fund some early generation GP systems in England, which at the time didn't collect good enough data or enough data to make it worthwhile. But given patience and time, that eventually led to the creation of the CPRD, which is nowadays known as one of the largest and most used collections of routinely collected health data globally, and it still represents a proportion of English patient data robustly anonymized. But of course, in the last decade, the term big data has been used more. The potential volumes of data that might be available for research have grown hugely. And so the excitement is now extreme for what the potential might be.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. There are many other questions, but one is coming just after this, your response. One is coming on my mind is about the key changes. How, for both of you, how did it affect your activities? How did it affect healthcare organization? NHS, for example, has huge volume of data, and they are able to potentially cross all this data. How did it affect R&D in this context? Perhaps, Dipak, would you like to start?
Okay, well, I think it's probably fair to say that although I gave a UK general practice example in the 1980s, I think nowadays one would generalize this certainly to almost every European country and actually many countries in the world. So as we have more healthcare organizations, hospitals and GPs using electronic health records, collecting high volumes of data, one of the biggest changes is that that data can be used not only for pure research, publishable research, academic or industry-sponsored research, but it can be used by healthcare organizations themselves to understand where they are on the quality spectrum and look at where they are not achieving clinical outcomes they would like to achieve. They can even look internally in the data and see where are the outcomes failing to be achieved. What are the points of ineffective practice, inefficient practice, inappropriate variation, so that they can address them. So we see in healthcare a really exciting opportunity to use the data to improve healthcare as well as to accelerate knowledge discovery. And on the knowledge discovery side, I think that's for you to answer.
So, and there has been a dramatic change. It's been driven by the scientific knowledge that has been enabled through these new technologies. And our understanding of how, of the biological understanding of disease is driving now a lot of things that are very, very different. So a big example, of course, is all the hype around personalized medicine, which is driven by much more of an understanding of the pathway biology, the understanding of the biological systems that are in play in health and in disease, rather than taking a very anatomical, organ-based view of medicine. And so the taxonomy of disease is changing dramatically. How we describe what is severe asthma, how do we describe what is different forms of cancer, how we describe what different forms of type 2 diabetes or Alzheimer's disease is. And that has really, I think, revolutionized how both researchers in academia and, of course, in the industry approach understanding of disease mechanisms and approach developing new innovative medicines that hopefully will help in these diseases.